episode 2.
Hello and welcome to Lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo, our second lockdown special to coincide with the second lockdown in the UK due to the coronavirus pandemic. With me I have Dan and Ryan.
Hello. Hello.
It's good to have you guys with me. So we put the first lockdown episode out in March. What have you guys been up to since? How are we feeling? It's the second lockdown. We thought, a second lockdown special would be appropriate. How's everyone doing?
I'll go first. I think it's been oddly good for me. I know that sounds strange, but so when we did the one back in March, I was out of a job. I just found out that I wasn't going to be moving to New Zealand. I wasn't in a great place, I really think. And so being able to be in lockdown with my friends and play a load of video games and I still had to job hunt at the same time, but it meant that I sort of had a bit of spare time during the day. It was a bit tough, and then sort of come June I found myself some work, which is fantastic, and everything started looking up for everybody, and we're all sort of taking care of ourselves, and doing more of these podcasts was really good. We've also been working on live streams as well, which has just sort of really taken off. And I think this second lockdown for me wasn't as drastic as the first. It was just okay, well, we're going back in for another month. Objectively looking at it, not a lot of my day-to-day changes. So, okay, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm really glad, because when we spoke in March, it was just a time of upheaval for a lot of people, and I'm really glad to see you doing better in sort of in every regard, really. And I think it's important to note also, you can never really stack all of your anxieties and all of your issues. One's anxieties and issues are always bespoke, right? There's no way that it's the right way of thinking to look at somebody else's position and go, well, I'm doing better than them, therefore I'm okay. That never works. Your anxieties and your issues are still your own. But it is worth pointing out that I think particularly for the three of us here, I know I love being social. I love seeing people. I love going to the cinema. I love all these things that I can't do anymore. I'm still grateful that I feel like I was born to work from home. And I'm also incredibly blessed that my workplace supports that, and I'm really lucky to be employed. It means that most of my day-to-day outside of the lockdown restrictions and coronavirus, I've been slumming it in an office. I've been working for somebody else. I'm working for the man, So it's so unlike people who have been working in the arts, who have been having a better time of it most of the rest of the time, things sort of flip. So I'm very grateful to have the job security, and I'm very grateful to have an employer that supports me, that allows us to be doing things like /Dupe while this is going on, because we have the time to. And the other things, the other productions we've been putting into place, and even just the time to meet up and muse and produce things. And I'm really grateful to have this time right now, even with the second lockdown, which won't be impacting me as much as it did initially, now that my routines have altered to embrace working from home. But yeah, I'm just cognizant of the role luck plays into it as well. But then that said, I'm also incredibly grateful to be on the other end of a PlayStation controller with my friends and family, and to be able to snatch the time, Dan, with yourself as well, and with Ryan, snatch time here and there to actually create stuff together.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it just still feels like March. That's the thing. I've lost all sense of time. It became a very, like we talked about in March, it was all a bit scary. I'd lost quite a lot of work overnight, being in the arts, and for some of my friends, that's still the case, and that's an awful long time to not be doing anything, that sort of gives you life. I've been, again, we talk about being lucky, and me and my wife have fallen into teaching. We've been doing teaching beforehand, and we were very lucky that one of our employees happened to keep us on. So we're surviving, and we're doing okay, and it means we get the time together. I'm not sure I'm built to work at home, but I'm enjoying working from home, and modern technology, these Zoom calls that we're having have been keeping me in bread and butter, really, basically, and have allowed students that are feeling really anxious over this time to be able to express themselves and have some connection. I know it's not necessarily the experience they were hoping for, and the college experience, the university experience is as much a social aspect, and so I've been dealing with a lot of students that have been missing out on that. We had a very interesting conversation the other day about it feels like this time's been stolen from us, and actually that we're working through things, and we have our plans, but we can never really plan for anything that's going to come up like this. And we're having this conversation on Remembrance Sunday, actually, and we're talking about, well, we think we've had our year stolen, but there were people that literally sort of had their entire lives stolen from them.
Sure.
And that inevitably in another generation there will, we hope not, but there will be something that will inevitably disrupt plan. And like you, I've been feeling this second lockdown hasn't felt too much of an imposition for me, because I've started to find a role on how this works and how we go. But I do know that it is affecting. I'm very lucky. I'm at a place of privilege, really. I'm working with people that where for this is really, really a bit of an imposition. And for some of my friends and compatriots in the arts, where they've now been 8 months, is it, without pay?
Yeah.
Not earning anything.
Sure.
And that's really tough. That's really tough to feel that for other people.
Yeah.
So not to put a downer on the beginning of our lockdown, because I know, one of the things I'm really glad about is that we've been able to catch up quite often, and see your faces. And we've started our new live stream, Blood and Song.
Yes.
So which I'm sure you're going to talk about now.
Yeah, well, it's Diwali, which dovetails nicely into that. So today, the day that we're recording this is Diwali. It won't be the day that it goes out that we release it. So
is it only Diwali?
It's it's also Ryan's birthday today.
Thank you very much.
Ryan's birthday.
In the prep for this, which there wasn't much, I'll be honest with you. None of us mentioned that we were going to mention Ryan's birthday, so I guess he was quite upset that we didn't prep the fact that we were going to mention it. But yes, it's Ryan's birthday. How old are you, Ryan? Doesn't matter. You look fresh-faced.
I'm 29, and I originally thought like 29 was like a trash birthday year, because 26 you're the same age as the number of miles in a marathon, 27 is the number of dresses, 28 is the days later, and I was like, well, 29 is a bit rubbish. But then I realised I've turned 29 in a leap year where there is 29 days in February, so it's spooky.
I would say grabbing at straws, they're clutching at straws, but I never even thought about thinking of each year lined up. I think I've managed to do it.
I've managed to do it from, I think, 21 onwards. I think I've found something at least to be able to associate a number to a year to.
Also, when did the Lord Jesus Christ die? I'm sure
33.
He was.
If you can get past 33, you've done well.
I didn't get famous and join the 27 Club, right? So that one went out the window.
Well, we're grateful.
Thank God for that.
Thank God for that. In a way, yeah, that one went out the window. But
in a way,
thank God
for that in every possible way. Not in a way. No, don't tell me you would want to have died in infamy instead of lived.
So I think there's or is 33 the next one? All right, 33 is the next milestone. I'll look for that.
Wow.
Just have to have created something big before 33.
I turned 40 in this coronavirus, which you two so very kindly helped me celebrate.
Yes, distanced socially.
And someone,
and so on.
I was getting a bit worried about it, and I wanted a good 40th. But one of my friends told me that when you get to 40, everything just gets easier. And I don't know whether it's just because you start forgetting more or because you care less.
Yeah.
But he was right.
Yeah.
He was right. So
you've
got a lot to look forward to, Ryan.
Delicious.
We've been producing. We've all had different experiences of tabletop role playing games, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, the confluence of these creative things. Just a quick plug on this other thing that we're doing. So it's called Blood and Song. We've been producing it and we star in it. It's a tabletop RPG live stream every Monday evening on YouTube and Twitch. And it's based on the Dungeons and Dragons engine, but really what I find interesting about it is it's about collaborative imagination and creative storytelling. So we're all friends. We've all come together. We've produced it together. We star in it. We help shape it. We do everything. We all do a little bit of everything. We lay hounds and everything. So Dan, Ryan, and myself are part of it. And I'm really proud of it because it's basically like live TV on the production side of things, which is incredibly challenging. Very grateful to have a bit more free time to be able to actually put that forward. And then on the other side of it, where we're acting and creating together collaboratively, but and the sort of idea of it being a tabletop role-playing game is just a framework for us to be able to hang many sort of aspects of our Anglo-Indian and Asian British heritage on, which we're very proud of as well. We want to see more of that type of representation. But how many episodes now are we in? 3 episodes. It honestly feels like a lot more. We've been producing it for quite a while.
Before when
this goes out.
Yep.
I don't know how you guys feel about it so far, but I'm incredibly proud of it. I mean, we could have 0 viewers, and we would still do it, and I would be so proud of it. I'm grateful we don't, but I'm really proud of what we're doing.
I'm so in love with it, and we've barely gotten off the starting line. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not even into the first corner yet, and I absolutely love it, and I can really see this going somewhere as a piece of media, as a show that we're all producing and starring in. It's something that, as you said, Asian culture is not really represented in high fantasy. And so that's another thing that I'm particularly proud about, that like I'm really, it's not like we've just decided to, throw Vishnu in there or whatever. Like, we've all put research in, we've all looked at like all of the parts of the fantasy that are amazing for storytelling, and we're building a world around that.
Yeah, it's these voices that we've heard in our lives growing up. We're able to channel them, is how I see it. Before you understand heritage, before you understand culture and race, you have these different voices teaching you as you grow up and guiding you and being a part of your life. And I finally am able to look back and take from them and hopefully give back by telling my side of things, which is an Asian, British, or an Anglo-Indian type of story.
You even got your DNA done for it, didn't you, Ryan?
I did.
So you can...
I did it. It wasn't specifically for the stream, but I did get it done. And some particular outliers out there, but I think at one point somebody said in our family, because we've got one family member from Portugal and one from Armenia and stuff like that, and all over the place, someone was like, I think there's only one family member that's potentially Indian, and I was like, that seems about wrong. So it was nice to get the DNA test back, and the majority of my DNA being sort of central northern Indian, being the sort of major component of that. So it's good.
Yeah. So I mean, and then the rest European. So it's a very Anglo-Indian mix, which is quite interesting. But no, it's something we're all really proud of. It's 8 p.m. Mondays live on YouTube and Twitch, and it's called Blood and Song.
That's 8 p.m. GMT for our entire American fan base.
For our international fan base. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So that's Blood and Song. But in terms of Slash Dupe, how's everybody feeling about how it's going? Because we were very fortunate to have planned ahead, or at least not planned ahead because we didn't really have the opportunity to, but to have been ahead of our schedule. So we had a lot of people very early on in the lockdown that we were able to record with, and a lot of people were freer, which in one sense was very good. And they were able to make time in their schedules to come on. So we had some wonderful, wonderful guests for this quarter of Slash Dupe.
I think the funny thing was we did a bunch of episodes, and then everything happened with lockdown and we weren't sure. And then we recorded the lockdown episode, the previous one. And I really think that was the catalyst for us to go, right, we need to kick this thing back into gear. And so we started booking fantastic guests, and we started being able to record with people. And we almost flipped the script because we used to do all the recordings at Dan's house, and then we were all in lockdown.
Yeah.
And so we were like, at the studio. So actually we were then able to flip that script and be like, actually, let's just do it at home. Let's just get people who have got the time, who've got the equipment, and be able to do it. And so it's almost turning it into a positive and just driving forwards with it. And I really am like happy. Every single person I know that's listened to it has been like, oh, this is great. And they're coming up with ideas and they're telling us them. And I'm saying, don't tell us, go to our socials at /Dupe on all socials. Yeah. Go to our socials and put it in there. And every person that we've had on as a guest have been like, oh my God, I love it. I love you guys. This format's amazing. When can I come back?
I've had some fantastic compliments. It sounds weird to say because because this is very grassroots. We sort of grew this ourselves and we did it because we thought it would be fun and we wanted to encourage our friends and industry contacts and industry friends to sort of come in and share the fun with us. But I've been having a lot of compliments from /Dupe, and a lot of people have said it was the highlight of the lockdown, which again, it sounds like I'm sort of tooting our own horn, but that's a really humbling thing to hear, and really lovely, because we want to share this fun. And you're right. It was that lockdown episode where the three of us had so much fun that we thought, we need to make this a priority.
Why are we not doing this? Why have we stopped doing this? Yeah, absolutely. And I've come away from each one of the ones we've recorded over lockdown with some amazing guests and some absolute bangers of ideas right across the board. I've walked away from every single one of those recordings feeling, on a high, much sort of, it's always a little shot to the spirits. Every time we record those.
Even though #Dan was robbed in basically every single episode.
Every time. I think I might have won one, but generally robbed.
Yeah, so the format of this will be similar to the last special we did, except this time, due to the nature of being so constricted physically in where we can go and what we can do, and being governed by sort of ever-changing rules, we thought we could do with a little imagination this time. So almost like not focus on the lockdown at all, a little nostalgia, if you will, a little something. So I just completely opened up the idea of sequels. We've each of us taken it upon ourselves to come up with a sequel, prequel, a rebootquel, that's a thing, sidequel, that's actually a thing as well, or otherwise some kind of follow-up in whatever form that is taken to you, to an existing film. It doesn't even have to be specifically one that you like, and it can be from any time period. It can already have sequels. It can already have things in the series. I just thought, we discussed this and we thought, let's just open it up. This is not a time for constriction. This is a time for wanton imagination. This is a time for utter nonsense. So I don't know the order.
That's exactly what you're going to get, Sean. Yeah, utter nonsense.
I should hope so, because Ryan just said, I don't know if I'll do this, I don't know if I'll do that. I haven't heard a thing from Dan. So I don't know if this was another morning off creation. I don't know if this has been boiling secretly as a sort of thing in the background. I have no idea, Dan.
It was another sort of, I've been thinking hard about it, and nothing was falling. Do you know what I mean? Like you're panning for gold, basically. And then this morning, I said to Sarah, "It's like, I just need a sequel idea," and she was like, "Well, what about?" And I was like, "That is it, and this is how it's going to go." And she was like, "I'm not sure you should do that." and that's exactly why I'm doing it.
That's excellent. So. And do you know what? I this is almost exactly how ideas are forged. The day of, somebody goes, "I've got to go to a meeting, or I've got to go and do something. I need an idea." And then it comes to you. Sometimes you just can't plan ahead for these kinds of things.
Well, all the work you've been doing before, like sifting through ideas, and they've all fed into it.
Now, I like to say that line of bullshit to other people as well, and I like to believe it, but I don't know how true it is. But even Aaron Sorkin, for example, says, that's my writing process. As I watch sports and I have a shower and I lie on the sofa, and then an hour before the deadline I write. And he says the process does start at that first point, when you sit down and you clear your mind and you escape.
That's why I sit at my PlayStation and play
God of War
for 4 days in a row. Yeah.
So here's Dan's Nordic-themed father and son story.
Father and son journey. Yeah.
So I don't know if we want to start with you then, Dan.
I'm happy to let, because Rye's done his work. Rye knows what he wants, doesn't he? Right. Rye's excited for it, whereas I probably need a little bit more time for it to brew in the cup.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. Let's hear your Lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo idea for /Dupe, please.
So my idea for my film It's one of my top 3 films. So those films in no particular order. And the reason why they're my favourite films, right, is because I can watch them over and over again, not get bored by them. Those films are Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, High Fidelity, and Speed Racer. Now, I have chosen for my film to do a second one. I have chosen Speed Racer. And one of the reasons why I love this film, not only because of like it's ridiculously colourful and it's ridiculously crazy, however, it actually reminds me quite a lot of Sean and Dad, because we used to play a lot of racing games on the Nintendo 64, which is like the first major console we owned. And, you know, I used to love playing games with those guys, and we used to play F-Zero X.
Yeah,
a lot, and I loved that one. And
that was a game.
Dad, you know, even like Dad was really good at it. That and Diddy Kong Racing, but you know, so when Speed Racer came out and they were doing things like, you know, when they go flying off the track, they like become those like balls and everything like that, and like just how
it's called
crazy
like a checkpoint system, isn't it? I'm sure they call it like a checkpoint or something. And it's got a name. Someone can correct us in the comments, but it's got a name, that system, and it's very video gamey.
And I never, you know, I'm not as old as Dan, so I never watched Speed Racer.
Wow.
I never watched Speed Racer.
At least I'm uncool now. I'm uncool. It's fine.
I never watched it when it was a TV series, so I only knew of it as a as the film, and also oddly enough, when Ted and the Blanks sing the theme song for it in Scrubs, that's the only other thing I knew about it.
Yeah.
So, my idea for a Speed Racer film, I
just want to go in there. Speed Racer is wicked, by the way. It's the film that the Wachowskis did after The Matrix. So I believe they produced, wrote V for Vendetta, but their first film that they directed after the Matrix trilogy was in fact Speed Racer, and it utilized a lot of cutting edge technology. Even though it looks quite unusual and quite dated now, as a lot of films do when they utilize cutting edge technology. I love Speed Racer as much as you do, Ryan. I really do. And there's a lot of things in there that I find difficult, or that I don't like. But I think that some of its parts, like I think overall, it comes close to achieving transcendence, or like that moment of, it's got that 2001 bit at the end. Like it's got this. It's magical, and it's such an anime film.
Yeah,
which I love very deeply. So please tell us where it fits in the timeline. Is it a sequel? How does it work?
So I think it's a sequel. So kind of like the way that Borat did and the way that Anchorman did. You know, they referenced the fact that they were set X amount of years later, and so this would be set. You know, if we did it now, it would be set. I think it's 12 years later, because I think the film came out in 2008, and for the title, there's so many ideas for the title. I was thinking either Racing for Second, because that's what they say. There was like, no, everybody else is racing for second, which I thought was a great line in the film. To Your Cars, or Real Race Car Driver.
Or a Royalton, quote.
Real race car driver that signed the contract, and it's like I just thought maybe those for the title. But what I
the tagline for that first one, what was the first one you said? Racing for second.
Racing for
Everyone
second.
else is racing for second. That's the tagline, right? Definitely.
Oh, that's the tagline. Yeah, that would be
definitely.
Good. And then maybe then it's called To Your Cars. But I want the idea of, basically I sort of want the film to start with Inspector Detector like running through the streets of something, and he's running away and he looks like someone's following him, and then he like makes a call to like call the racer residents, and then something happens to him, or he leaves a voice message, like a video message, and it goes through, and then you go to the racer residence, and there's like the voicemail light is blinking, and you see Speed like sitting there like with his like on his bed, like in the first one where he's getting ready for the race, and he's tapping his foot, and he like gets up, puts on like a shirt and a blazer, and walks out into the house, and everybody's wearing black. And you find out that 10 years, this is set because it's set 12 years afterwards, Susan Sarandon, the mum character, she has died, and this is her funeral.
Right, okay.
And
what's her name? Mom Racer, is her
Mom
name?
Racer,
Sure, something like that. Yeah. Okay, so she's passed away.
So she's passed away, and they go into the funeral. And I think, you know, they mentioned in the first one that, like, the fact that when Rex died, it almost tore the family apart, and Dad didn't go in the shop for another year, and he had that scene, you know, he's sitting on the sofa with him watching the old Monte Carlo race or whatever it was, the Grand Prix. And so I like the idea that maybe this does actually tear the family apart. Like, she was the thing that made that entire family who it was and how it was. And so I want it to be sort of set. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to go backtrack on myself. I want that to happen at the beginning, and then it's like 10 years later, which makes it to now, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So that happens, like, that would happen in 2009, for example. And then, you know, we're now like 11 years later or whatever. So I like the idea they've all splintered off to sort of do different things. But one of the thing that Inspector Detector was chasing after them about was that in the first film, they talk about Blackjack Benelli, who was the person who fixed the race and was the one that killed Rex Racer, and he is in jail. So now he's back out, and he wants revenge.
Okay.
So that's why Inspector Detector, because that's obviously how they know him that's how they know him because he investigated the crash and everything like that. That's why he goes after him. Definitely, I think the sort of police side of thing, they'll definitely be called Superintendent. Just obviously a British person, but I like that they all split off to do different things. Maybe like the dad, where he went back to wrestling.
So this is after. So this is 10 years. It's 12 years ago. Or 10 years ago, after Mom Racer passed away, the family all splinters and they all go off and do different things.
Yeah, so they've all been doing different things. Like Trixie, I think Trixie and Speed Racer break up, and Trixie starts Cool Bean Clothing, which is like sort of street clothing, like that's designed to look like racers' clothing. Because that was her like catchphrase, and so like she does that. Like Sparky is definitely like, I think he is working in the underground, like he's fixing up getaway driver cars to be like really quick. So like in the way that in the 60s transit vans are actually faster than stock cop cars. So that all the robbers had transit vans, so they would be able to outrun them. So he's like doing that. The dad has definitely like gone back into wrestling, like maybe as a wrestler, but he's older, or he is like the sort of
the organising a wrestling ring, maybe.
Yeah.
He wants to feel that crowd. He wants to hear the crowd. He wants to feel that energy again.
Yeah, it was that roar that he loved. You know, like Spridle and Chim Chim, I think they've gone off to be like conservationists in like in the middle of like the jungle somewhere.
Do they still love sweets? No, they love fruit.
Yeah,
they love the jungle because it's got all of like, as my friend Danny used to say, nature's Skittles. That's how he described grapes.
Yeah.
So that it has all the wealth of sweets that you can eat in the jungle.
And I think Speed, like, I don't know how, but I want at some point. So, Benelli coming back will be like, he starts his crime family again. He starts to refix the races. He starts to like pull in all of those favors, almost like a sort of Hydra thing, you know, like this has been dormant for years, and now he's come back in and he's starting to pull the strings, and the only way to beat them, you know, is in like a fair race. Now I know this is almost cut and paste exactly what the first film was like, but if Churches, the band, has taught me anything, is that you can make 3 albums that sound exactly the same and everybody loves them. So you could just do like a similar sort of thing with this. Like, they have to take down the bad guy, but then Superintendent finds Speed Racer, and I think that he has lost a leg somehow.
Speed Racer's
lost a leg, because in the first one they talk about, like, you know, when they put his hands in the piranha pit, and it's like, you know, how can you drive with steady hands? But he'll be his right foot for the accelerator, and I think that they will. They have to like get the family back together, and with Superintendent, they'll go around, you know, they'll find like Pops, and they'll try and get him back to sort of building cars, and then they'll sort of look around like the wrestling ring, and it's all like the way the whole thing's been like manufactured and everything. That is basically like the beating heart, like the engine of a car, like, all the stage moves up and down like pistons, like all of like the like the like stuff like that, like, you never lost it, Pops, you just manifest it in a different way.
So they clear out everybody from the place, and they're in the ring is where they build their motor car again.
Yeah,
love
they
it.
Place all the parts in the ring.
Yeah. And like Spridle and Chim Chim, even though they've gone off to be conservationists, they like discover an eco fuel that's like way more potent than like fossil fuels, and that's what they've been doing. Like, you think that they've been doing like
the monkeys know where it is.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I don't know whether he's a monkey or he's maybe he should just now, like, I don't know, maybe be a gorilla just to make it cool. Like, he's now much bigger, like, as like Spridle, even though that's not.
Him.
Yeah, I know that's not how monkey growth works, but but I just think that would be funny. Like, Chim Chim's no longer Chim Chim anymore.
He's like, because Spritle's grown up as well, right?
Yeah.
So Chim Chim's turned into like a different beast to support him in his teenagehood or adulthood or whatever.
And I think like Sparky comes back. So I think while they're doing all this, obviously Benelli finds out, right, and then gets all of his goons in while they're trying to build the car to like destroy it or break it, and then suddenly whoosh, whoosh, like someone disappears, whoosh, 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 like someone else disappears, and they're like, what the hell? And then ninjas come down.
Of course they do,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ninjas come down and they defeat all of Benelli's guys, and then Toko Khan, who was the guy from the first one, comes down, and it like you think it's him because you see the red hair, and then they take the ninja mask off and it's his sister, then she says, "This is what passes for ninjas these days."
Yeah, I like it.
Nice.
An obscure callback to the first Speed Racer.
Absolutely. And then she also brings in like Racer X, who's going to be there again, but he's like a bit older, and I think that, I don't know how, but at some point he's going to sort of basically, like in The Dark Knight Rises, where he's like, all it took was to put a coat on a little child, or whatever he says, and that's how he lets him know that he was brute. It's like somehow to get Speed to like race at his best, he's going to drop something in like that, like something to do with the Red Sox maybe, because that's what his brother told him the only reason they survived the crash is because he was wearing his red socks.
Here's a place to bring the Red Sox and the fact that he's missing a leg together. I don't know how,
well,
but there's something in there, isn't there?
The missing leg thing, what I think he wants to do is when he's like, I can't do this, I can't. Oh, that's what it is. So Racer X is the one that convinces him to drive the car again. And he brings him to like the ring, and they're getting in the car, and he's like, I can't drive this. And he sits in the driver's seat. And Sparky has built basically like a prosthetic that is integrated with the accelerator, so that he like fits it on. So he's always going to be like pedal to the metal with it.
It's got force feedback, Speed. It's got all these things in there that you need. You can really feel the road.
Which is actually less helpful than having a prosthetic that he can have on his leg.
Yeah.
That attaches to the pedal. Do
you know what I mean?
It's
anime.
actually welded into the pedal. Yeah. Love it.
So he like clicks it all in, and it's like, and it's like, it goes back, flashes back to the things his brother said, you've got like feel the car, like it's a living, breathing thing, like that.
Has it got like has it got neuro links in it? So he actually is in the car. He is the
that's
car.
It.
He has to like
He's one with the car.
Good.
So he thinks the car, and the car is.
Because then Benelli can be like, on a technicality, try and get him cancelled. This is not the technology that we've agreed upon. You know how they have all these rules in F1, and then there can be some sort of way Sparky can be like, no, there was nothing in there that linked him to the car. I just said that to get Speed, like, or Racer X can say that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can be like, no, I just said that to get that feeling of like,
connection.
Yeah, like the juice from Space Jam.
Space Jam, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. So they win. And
they definitely. So, and when they're building the car and they like they paint it white and they re-sticker it, and it's that classic thingy, and then it's the Mark 0M, so it spells mum on it.
Yeah, that's
and that
good.
ties it back to Susan Sarandon, because she was
M
like, she was the heart of it.
Yeah.
So she like was the heart of all of it. So she's like there with him, like when he's racing. And then obviously it goes out, and in Speed Racer 1, when Rex is racing, there is a bit where Benelli runs up to a guy and he's like, I thought you said you were going to take him out. And like, that's the only time he appears in the film. And so you'll mirror that again. And And I can't. He's just too fast. And then this obviously they like completely blow this whole thing out of the water. They win. Like all of the underworld crime bosses, like had all their bets thrown and all this stuff. And then superintendent will definitely like arrest this person, and it would be like the vengeance for Inspector Detector's death and everything like that.
Hey, wait. When did Inspector Detector die?
At the beginning, when he left the voice message, he was like trying to leave the voice message.
Oh, I see. Sorry,
and it was just the blinking light because no one got the message in the Racer household to say that Benelli was back because they were going to the funeral, so that's why I couldn't really settle on a title, because Real Race Car Driver does also make sense as well. And To Your
I did
Cars,
quite like that. Real Race
To
Car
Your
Driver.
Cars makes sense as well, because obviously they're going back to it.
To Your Cars is what you see on the first promo poster, the one that goes out before just as it's been announced, To Your Cars, and then like the Mac with the M, and like just some teasery type art, right? That's the thing you first see. So, okay, so how does he lose his leg? How does Speed Racer lose his leg?
So
that's what I want to know.
I originally had Speed being like maybe like being a getaway driver, but I sort of feel like that does lead him down like a bit of a dark path, and I'm just not really too sure. That's why I switched to Sparky, because Sparky can sort of almost have plausible deniability that all he's doing is he's just fixing up these cars. Like he's not.
What
actually,
about underground street racing or something? But like for a good cause. So like if he wins, then the bad guys clear out of town and stop harassing the people. If Speed beats them in a race, but like he puts his own life at risk at one point. I think, and then loses his leg that way.
It was either going to be underground racing, or it was going to be. Who's a taxi driver, and who used to be somebody. Oh, I missed out Trixie actually. So when he gets into the carnival from that, Trixie will come back in, and then she'll give him the neckerchief, like the famous speed racing neckerchief that he wears from her like clothing line, and it would be like the special one, and ties it round, and like that would be like the Cool Beans. That's her way back into it.
Yeah, they say like. Speed, have you got anything else to say on the podium? Like, Speed, have you got something to say? And then he just goes like, cool beans. And then like Trixie comes up and then they make out,
Again.
It's like, that's his win is to get Trixie back. Like, forget the race. All right, so listen, I've got to ask.
Maybe they had a crash. Hang on. Maybe they had a crash. And he lost his leg, and she couldn't forgive him for that, or there was something that was going on. They were having an argument.
He saved her instead of himself, and ruined his own racing career.
Yeah, and
she couldn't forgive him for giving away his talent like that. In that same, like, she feels survivor's guilt, right, for that, for what happened. That's good, Dan.
And maybe to keep the connection with the racing world, that's why she builds the clothing line, because it's like because it's street fashion.
Well, she's hoping to raise enough money to maybe. Getting some surgery or the prosthetics.
But Sparky beat him too with the car.
But then she has a special like boot covering or something. Do you know what I mean? Like
red socks.
Yeah, the red socks that
she calls them the red socks. They're boots that pull up over. Yeah.
All right, so I have to know about how racing, if it has evolved over those 12 years, right? So like, because the tracks are very like, I love them. They're like Mario Kart tracks. They're like they go all like I love that they just went fully all out and had this thing with loop the loops and like across the water and the desert chase, and like it was proper sort of like catch the pigeon type stuff. So wacky races.
I feel like
how is it in this?
If you think about actual like Formula One and everything like that, we have a lot of very established tracks, and then ones that have been retired, and then ones that don't get raced in for X amount of years. Like there's only X number of races that they can do a year, but everybody wants a track in it. So obviously, 5 years ago there wasn't, or maybe longer than that, maybe 10 years ago there wasn't a Dubai race, and now there is, and now it's become quite a main staple. And so I think that it will be. Maybe the final race would be back at Thunderhead, which is where like he talks about Thunderhead being sort of a great day out with the family and everything like that. And so that's where they go back to like do the final race. Like the Grand Prix changes every year. I think that you still have the big companies, like Royalton. Maybe Royalton's son, Esquire Jr.
They make it like for one of the final tracks. They're like. Royalton have made a car and an engine that can survive like any condition. It can go under the water. It can go, so like the race takes place almost like the new Mario Kart. So it takes place in different environments. It's like a sort of Paris-Dakar type thing. So then they have to go, there's even a segment where they go underwater and stuff like that. Like the cars have to be able to, and then they have their battles underwater and like there's sea creatures and stuff. You have to do something in the sequel, don't you, to sort of...
It would just, I think it's as much about the characters as it is the racing, which is a funny thing, but like I just feel like this is a bit more towards that. So I think the state of racing doesn't necessarily need to change. He does talk about in the first one how, obviously the people, the buy-ins, the money, that's what matters about the sort of the race world. And in the same way, a lot of people still consider boxing to be fixed because of the state of it, what it used to be like, when mafiosos were running it and everything like that. People still consider that to this day, even like in professional leagues for that, throwing shade at boxing.
So who's directing and producing it? Because if it is the same, then we're gonna have, it's got to be about the special effects, right? So because that's a mainstay throughout them all. So you've got to ramp up the special effects.
It is called Speed Racer as well, so let's not forget.
Or are we taking it away? Are we taking it to someone else completely different who then takes the ridiculous sort of visual element of everything and then just almost takes that away and goes towards the characters? So we lose that element in the sequel.
Do you know what would be interesting? There was an episode of like Love, Death and Robots that was like sort of half painted people, like half live action. I can't remember which one it is. It's where the guy's like sort of looking at the person through the window and then runs through the street after them. But it's like, I definitely think...
It's like rotoscoped.
Yeah. Maybe that would be interesting to do.
Similar
like
to Waking Life or something like that.
So maybe rotoscoping would be interesting to sort of still give it that flavour of like it's the smash between the film and then the animation. But maybe not all the parts of it need to be like that. Maybe some of them are in real life, and then maybe all the racing changes to rotoscoping, like you're almost in like a different mindset, like when you go into the racing, it's like a whole different thing. So you can have this interesting art contrast between the rotoscope style racing and then the real life, quite hard hitting moments of like love between the family and stuff like that. I think basically everybody, if they possibly can, reprises their roles.
Okay. That was my next question.
I think if
Emil Hirsch would do it. He's not doing anything else.
Yeah.
He'd come back. He'd honour the Wachowskis. The Wachowskis would come back. I guess we're in a world where
like either the
one of the Wachowskis is doing The Matrix 4. He's just wrapped.
The Wachowskis
so we're in a world where this could happen.
They'd either come back or they'd definitely be like executive producers. You know what I mean? Like they'd be there. Right. I don't know who they'd hand off to.
But then who takes up that mantle, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's quite a tough one. Giacchino comes back 100% to do the music, like 100%. He's all over it, even though, and he's probably the most expensive thing now after like all the things that he scored. But like, he's definitely back into it.
It feels like if the Wachowskis, they wouldn't be on it if you were going to move to this other, which is more people-centric and less visual-centric. Do you know what I mean?
You could actually go, looking at Terminator Dark Fate and looking at Deadpool and looking at the shorts from Love, Death and Robot produced by the same guy. You could go for the director of that film, whose name is just escaping me at the moment, Tim Miller. So you could go for Tim Miller because he's a big VFX guy. He understands dynamism. He's a very kinetic sort of camera. He's done the live-action photography with Dark Fate. And he's a bit irreverent. He's got that sort of fuck you style. So he's one of the people that could take it on board and sort of bring his vision, but also bring the Wachowskis' vision out. My shout for now would be, because you want someone who knows how to bring these elements together. You don't just want someone visual. You don't just want like a Tarsem Singh, did The Fall and and The Cell, because you want someone who also understands maybe the storytelling aspect of it. Not that we're pretending the storytelling aspect is superb in Speed Racer, but it had its moments, right? And it did something hyper. It's almost like a kids' film. If it hadn't have been so laden with sort of the politics of racing, it's a very interesting film with so many different shifting times.
It's an adult's film it's an adult's film for the kids that used to watch Speed Racer and now have grown up and love F1 and understand the politics of it and stuff like that.
What certificate was it when it came out?
I feel like it was only a PG.
I I think so. I feel like it was as well because it's got cartoon violence and stuff like that.
It's a PG, right? Yeah. So there's no blood drawn.
Yeah,
is there? And it's just like the worst thing that happens. I think Chim Chim throws some poo at somebody, but
but kids love that sort of stuff. Don't
exactly.
They? That's literally their favourite thing in the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
So
if it's a 12, do we get what you get one fuck if it's a 12, don't you?
We've already done 2 in this podcast, so that's bumped it up to a 15.
Hey. Maybe you get one of those.
It depends if you want to. It depends because I think maybe one of the criticisms you could level at the first one was it can't decide whether it's a family film, an adult's film, or a kids' film, and I think they're all 3 separate things. So I would say in this one you can make it a thrilling kids' film, and make it for children, but make it thrilling at the same time. A family film, like the same way that Pixar's Inside Out. There are no children that are going to be understanding the nuances of that. But the colourful blobs running around is completely
interesting enough, though. My little one now describes some of his feelings via who's in charge in his head.
Yeah,
so when he's angry or sad, he does something that he doesn't want to. Like anger's taking over, and he's like, I want joy to come back, and so we actually been helping him through his emotions using Inside Out. So it's really, I think kids pick up a lot on these things. So
because you don't have to speak down to them, do you? But at the same time, you perhaps don't have to fill it with politics and structure.
You won't get the politics,
putting stuff in there. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And obviously, kids won't get your favourite joke from Inside Out, Sean, which is "This is Cloudtown, Jake."
Yeah. I love that Chinatown joke. I was the only person who laughed in the cinema at that joke, at Chinatown reference. But thanks, Ryan. That's a fantastic idea for Speed Racer 2 to your cars. Or Speed Racer 2, what do you want to call it?
Speed Racer to your cars.
Oh,
surely.
That's good.
The number 2. Come on.
I think, but I also love Real Race Car Driver.
Different territories, you can have different titles for it. I like it.
I think it will be received. It won't be particularly received very well. It will just make its money back in the box office, but because the Wachowskis are attached to it in some way, shape, or form, it will become a cult classic.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. That was Speed Racer has a fantastic sort of anti-establishment sort of message in it for a studio film, and I like that sort of, that you've taken it and made it sort of human again. That's cool. I would definitely watch that. So my pitch, it's very much a first draft. This is very much a first draft. It's definitely not got the right components and additives that are necessary to make it a whole. But mine starts with salam and welcome. And you are close on the loom of fate as it weaves the tapestry of fate. The backstory and anything we need to know is revealed here. Any preamble is told while roving through the interweaving of threads and fabrics. And at the end of the tapestry, that gives, whatever backstory we actually need is all told in this sort of wonderful sort of woven way. And at the end of the tapestry, there's a space, the colour and size and shape of a carpet that has been torn away. So this is hand animated, purple skies, the white pop of twinkling stars, bronze rolling dunes, and the vista of Agrabah. So this is Aladdin 2. This is a sequel to Aladdin.
Nice.
Maybe in some territories it's called Aladdin Cave of Wonders, but it's Aladdin 2. And it's a direct sequel to the first Aladdin, and it completely rewrites the entirety of Return of Jafar and King of Thieves. I think it's called King of Thieves, the third one. So it presumes that they were TV movies. It just writes them out of the canon completely. And the TV series as well, which I cannot remember at all. And it fits itself directly in after the first Aladdin. So there's a whimsical sort of musical number about faraway place, but we're moving away from Agrabah. So we're moving to a place further away, much, much further away. It's to a different plane. And we are in the land of the Council of the Genies. So this is where they live. So they're all genies of all different shapes and sizes, all different colours, all different styles, all the different styles. And what they basically are is it's every comedy alum of Robin Williams. So it's every comedian that would love and pay tribute to Robin Williams. They're all here. The genies are all made up of and that also means the serious comedians. It means the political comedians. It means the irreverent ones. It's you've got every different kind of comedian you can imagine, and that colours, if you like, the flavour of these genies. It gives them their own unique personalities, because you have to be a bit absurd but also a bit real to be a genie.
So what time period are we talking here? Because there's obviously spectrums of comedian. Like, I'd love to see a Chris Farley genie. Are you saying that actual comedians will voice all of these?
Exactly.
Okay.
And they're all living comedians, but they all play from the comedians that knew Robin Williams while he was doing his circuits to the comedians now that pay tribute to him. It's a whole spectrum of comedians that you'll notice.
So the film is coming out. So the film is out 2020, is that what you're saying?
The film's out 2020, 2021.
Fine, okay, because obviously Chris Farley's not with us. So
no. So it's coming out now, and it's saying it's a direct sequel to the first Aladdin.
Fine, okay.
And there's all these cameos. There's some comedy banter. There's a very much like an administrative sort of council feel, sort of a civil service type feel to this meeting. There are all these amazing, wonderful genies, but there's still someone taking the minutes. There's still, there's someone Skyping in. There's a bit of remote working type stuff going on with the genies. Some of them are away in their lamps, for example. They discuss how their leader, the king of the genies, is away on sabbatical. And there's the inference that Robin Williams' genie, they don't realise he's got his freedom. Or maybe some of them do, but there's such a bureaucratic nightmare that the information hasn't trickled down to them yet. But he is actually and has been the king of the genies. And that's why he is the way he is. He leads, they're all that way because his style, he was their leader. But that was never mentioned in the original film. He hasn't put his out of office on, so they don't know where he is. Or his out of lamp, or whatever you want to call it. So in lieu of leadership, there is this mysterious genie that votes on a new premises. He thinks that the Council of Genies it needs to be fixed up. They need something else. Most people are working from lamp anyway. So this mysterious figure. Which we know now to be the genie Jafar from the end of the first film. Like, bear in mind, now he's a genie. He gets a seat on the council, right?
Yeah, phenomenal cosmic power.
Right, itty bitty living space. So he thinks, well, I'm tired of this. So I want to. So in lieu of leadership, let us resurrect the Cave of Wonders deep in the desert. I just looked at my notes. I've written the word desert. But that's okay. I know what it means. Deep in the desert is their new HQ. So they go, yeah, why not? Because all the genies are good, right? They're all, fairly good. They might be irreverent, but they're good. So yeah. So they agree to this because they know that in order to give ultimate cosmic power over the genies, to give to get the new king of the genies in Robin Williams' stead. They need the gemerald of pure genie's blood, and it is held within the Cave of Wonders, all instigated by the evil genie Jafar. So they raise back the talking effigy of the lion or the panther or whatever it was.
Who disturbs my slumber?
It is I, Jafar! And that's probably when it's revealed that it's Jafar, right? Jafar the genie! And they raise it, but when they go inside, they look at the figure that should be holding the pure genie's blood gemerald, and it is missing. So they are beside themselves, because this gem is missing.
Am I going to spoil it if I tell you?
You can't go on.
Take a guess.
You can take a guess.
Is that the gem that Abu stole at the very beginning?
It certainly is. So where does this gem turn up? Well, we cut to make way for Sultan Ali, and here comes it's the wedding of Princess Jasmine and Aladdin. Now I don't know the timelines of this. I think it should take place like a decade afterwards, but then why they're getting married a decade afterwards, I don't know.
Maybe it's a celebration of their anniversary. It's a celebration for the anniversary.
Perfect.
10 years.
And they're sort of renewing their vows, if you
gorilla. Abu's now a gorilla because obviously we've established earlier.
That's how monkeys work.
We've established earlier that's how monkeys, evolve.
Abu and I'll get to him, is in fact married to a gorilla, as his wife. He was like a beautiful, wonderful, force in his life. Stops him from being a little naughty scamp and a thief, and keeps him on the straight and narrow. He's now.
I'd have loved him to be married to a flamingo.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, we've changed it now. It's a flamingo. I told you this was the first draft. One of the flamingos in the garden, and he always gets it wrong who it is, and he always goes up and cozies up to the wrong flamingo.
No, wait. Are you not on about?
Iago pretended to be a flamingo, yeah.
But Will, I like the flamingo thing though. I think that's good.
It's a throwback.
So Abu, he's also the right hand, by the way. Abu is the right hand of the. He's the vizier's role, in this, and so. We know it's them renewing their vows. They're doing it atop the palace in front of the roving crowds. Abu appears and produces the red gem stolen from the Cave of Wonders, and we recognise it as the Gemerald now. He was saving it for this moment. He knew he wanted to save it for a special moment, and them renewing their vows and everything. And they've done wonderful things to the city of Agrabah, which I'll get to. So bashfully, he offers it to Jasmine, and she gratefully accepts. He's the sort of guy who would offer it bashfully because he's not that sort of character. He's normally a cheeky guy, but here he's doing something good. Iago's there. He's happy to be in good company. He's happy not to be abused by Jafar. He was an abused figure, right? Jafar was really mean to him, and he had to keep up this facade of being evil. He even imitates the "I do," when they renew their vows in Jasmine's voice, like he did, as we were talking about with the with the what are they called, the pink things, the flamingos out in the back garden. Doesn't
Iago get sucked into the genie's lamp at the end of Aladdin 1?
He does.
Good point.
And I hate to be that person, but the gem in the first one melts when he puts it back on the idol when they escape the Cave of Wonders. But maybe we could say that was a hallucination.
I forgot that point. Both of those points. But let's figure out how we work ways around this, because this is what they do.
So it was a hallucination, so it didn't actually... He still had it in his pocket afterwards. So we can have a flashback to where he thought it was melted, because that's the genie, or the Cave of Wonder magic, right? Yeah. But he actually still had it, and it had gone into his pocket.
So why don't we... So Iago escapes from the lamp at the start, right, from the Cave of Wonders.
He's not actually a genie, is he?
No.
So maybe that could be him flying through...
He flies... This is the prologue that you see in the tapestry, and he escapes... And he comes back to tell them what their plan is, and they welcome him and forgive him with open arms, right? And he becomes leader of the army. So he's the head of the army of Agrabah, by the way.
Right.
Sorry, Ryan. What did you want to say?
Iago should definitely So you know how that Iago would imitate a flamingo, right? A flamingo tries to imitate Iago, and that's the one that gets sucked into the lamp with.
It's a flamingo in there. So Jafar turns around, and there's a flamingo. Yeah, and that's his psychic the whole time, and he keeps turning to the flamingo to try and get information from them. And it's useless.
And it's painted itself red to look like
Dan's doing an impression of a flamingo. Yeah, it tries to do its best. Like I'm trying to be Iago,
because it saw Iago trying to pretend to be a flamingo, so it tries to do it the other way around.
Yeah.
And it's at that exact moment it flies in trying to do it. When all the shit hits the fan, and then that's the one that gets sucked in.
I even know how silly this is, but I love the idea that Jafar thinks it's still Iago, but like something's happened when he got sucked into the lamp. So he's like, Iago, you've changed. You used to be quite talkative, and it's a flamingo who's like dressed itself up like Iago. Okay, yeah. So we'll have to. Yes, you're right. So you're right about those points. I'm glad you reminded me. We'll figure out a way around it. All right, so they've made loads of change over the last decade, in Agrabah. They're real activists as leaders. They introducing change for the peasantry. They're trying to abolish the type of so that there aren't those street rats and lowlives. They're trying to change so that everybody has equal opportunities. Aladdin is a spokesperson of the people. He conducts regular education at his old haunt that overlooks the city and overlooks the palace. Raja has died because he's a cat. He doesn't live very long, but he's the visage, he's the emblem of Jasmine's army, and for her foundation, her orphanage for the children of Agrabah. So he's there in spirit. And they're fighting for this change, and they acknowledge in lieu of not having a genie how much better it is to be fighting for this change, to come up from the ashes and be muddy and sweaty and dirty, but to have won something positive. They know how much better that is than wishing it to happen and it happening. You know, it's very much like they very, very much learnt that from the first film. So yeah, Iago's head of the army and advisor, gets to be in charge. He's respected, you know, his tactics, because he's a tactician. He was very intelligent. He was running a lot of the scams for Jafar.
It's true, he was, yeah.
You know, so he's respected finally for his tactics.
He was the ideas guy.
And taken back. Yeah, exactly. So at the Cave of Wonders, this is sort of the turning point. At the Cave of Wonders, a decision has been made. They recall a genie from a long-forgotten, self-imposed exile, a rogue genie. So it is a genie that is in control of their own lamp. Not a genie who has been freed, but a genie who is in control of their own lamp, who's almost freed themselves. And they don't know why. So but before a decision can be made, they go into self-imposed exile, so the decision doesn't have to be made. But they recall this rogue genie, and they need her help. And this genie has the same sort of irreverent streak as Robin Williams, you know, matches Robin Williams' energy in many ways. And they request her help. She's almost like a hunter. So they send her out into the world to be taken, you know, as if a genie by lots of different people to find out secretly what's going on. And slowly she pretends to make wishes for people. She pretends she's been controlled by these people, but really she's just changing hands from, you know, the lamp from person to person, so she can eventually find the secrets about where this Gemerald is. Is
she like, so you know that you do talk about monkey paws and wishes with monkey paws and how there's always like a consequence for that. Is that how she delivers the wishes for people? Right, she's that sort of, so yeah, you get it, but, and it's like, and that's why she's a bit rogue.
If you want to stick with like the sort of the pantomime version of Aladdin, you could have her as the genie of the ring, so you could have a ring rather than a lamp, and that's why she's able to break the lamp rules, maybe.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, exactly, and people wear this ring. Yeah, that's perfect, which then eventually can be fashioned. You know,
also just slips off. She changes the size of it and it just falls on the floor every time.
That's
she
great.
Wants to move, she moves on.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. And also, like as you were saying, Ryan, yeah, I think that's also a great idea. So she has the, but it's not monkey's paw in a negative. It's almost like if you wish for great riches, then she gives you things that actually matter in life under riches, and you learn that you don't need money. You need something else, community. You need worth. You know, self-worth. So, you know, what you wish for, you get something different, but it's positive. So it's the anti-monkey's paw almost.
I saw her. Could we talk to her about being a rogue genie?
I'll get to that.
Fine. Okay.
So Jafar, he is the genie of hedonism. He is the genie of sin. So what he can do as to evolve to evolve the genies as a sort of mythos in this world, because you want to expand that out, and there's lots of spin-offs to go down with the Council of Genies, right, with lots of different actors. You have him be the genie. Jafar is the genie that can grant the wishes of people's deepest, darkest desires, their secrets. He unasked for wishes he makes come true. So when you think to yourself, God, I wish that person was dead, you don't mean it, but you wish it in your head. He makes it happen.
He can break the rules.
He breaks the rules.
That was stated on.
But only if someone has wished it in their heart of hearts. If only someone in their darkest place has wished that, he can make it happen without them even saying it. So that's why he's such a nefarious force. So even the other genies, he can feel their sort of their wishes and feed off of that. That's how he's so manipulative. So I haven't got. Well, what are you going to say?
Jafar, aka Death Note.
Yeah. So I haven't got an actor for the female sort of foil sort of comparative to
Catherine Ryan.
Do you know what? I was thinking Catherine Ryan. We had this conversation the night about Catherine Ryan, and I honestly thought of her as one of the influences, but I wasn't quite sure whether she'd be the right choice.
Maya Rudolph.
Both really interesting choices.
Also, born on the 14th of November, so you know, dropping my sis in there as well.
There's nothing special about the 14th of November. It's Diwali, isn't it? I've been to see Catherine Ryan live. Is it just once, maybe twice? And she's got a new series as well out, hasn't she? So I think she might be, and she is brilliant.
Yeah,
and her live stuff is totally irreverent. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's got that kind of...
Okay, so
what
I'd
kind
almost
of
throw
comedy do you want, though? That's the thing.
Well,
yeah, that's the thing.
Because if you want someone that wants to match... if you want someone that's going to match sort of Robin Williams' energy,
yeah.
Then there's the woman that's in... She was in the Mindy Project. She... or maybe Mindy Kaling herself, if you want to keep it as an Asian actor.
You want
that's
that kind of crazy, because you're right, Catherine Ryan doesn't have that not with that busy energy, do you know what I mean? Like, it really sort of kid-friendly energy, I guess.
What about oh my god, I can't remember her name. I think she dated James Acaster for a while. It's a horrible way of remembering someone.
That is.
So Fortune Femister is the person I'm thinking of. She's the American woman with like the short blonde curly hair.
What about the Brit lady with the blonde hair? She's quite sort of. I bought you her book. I bought Sarah her book, Dan. It's
Sarah Pascoe.
Yeah, Sarah Pascoe, right? Like, I know that sounds odd,
good.
Right? But she has a kind of energy that is like warm and sort of unusual. That British energy is quite interesting, and that sort of wants to be. I hesitate to say progressive, but like it's just. She can dial that energy in whilst not being too American. I don't know. I don't know.
And she's got a bit of a childlike nature to her as well when she wants to. Like, so
exactly.
I think that's a good shout.
Yeah. So Sarah Pascoe could be an interesting sort of thing to galvanise the tone over. Sorry, Ryan, you were suggesting.
It's just Fortune Femster. She's from the Mindy Project. She's got that sort of larger than life style comedy that Robin Williams brought, and so if you wanted someone to match that sort of same style, that sort of like big jolly comedy, she would be my recommendation.
Okay, well, I'll
just come with an American
check her
accent
out after this. Yeah. Well, that's fine. All right, so I'll just round this up, and you can tell I haven't really got any plot. There's no plot in here really, or how any of the threads come together.
You've got more plot than I have, so that's
So we meet a lot of characters along the way because it spans a long period of time, I think, the story, until Aladdin and Jasmine are very old. And I arguably, just because I just wrote this very quickly and it's from an old idea as well, some old bits of ideas. I think I haven't really got a massive role for Jasmine, but they would be obviously in the overall thing. This is just clearly a first draft. But Carpet, I think inalienably Carpet is like basically everyone's favourite character. Like, everyone falls in love with Carpet. Carpet's hilarious. There's no question. There's nothing for you to not like about him. So therefore, I think, like, even though Robin Williams, brings the thunder, Carpet is like, he's the driving force throughout the whole thing. So Carpet, we find Carpet 10 years later. He's a carpet salesman in Agrabah, and what he does is he just wants a quiet life. He's doing very well as a carpet salesman because he mimes being a salesman, and he gets the first time you see him, he gets an entire family to walk away with an entire cartload of different carpets because he's such a good salesman. But he puts on like a sort of he puts a pipe in his mouth and a beret and a moustache, and people think he's human. Like, that's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those silly things where he manages to come off as human. They go, "Oh, you're an interesting fellow," and like they don't ever know he's a carpet, right?
Tips his hat.
Yeah, exactly. But he's missing something, right? He doesn't realise that he is, in fact, part of the very fabric of life itself. And he tries to blend in. He sells in regular carpets. But one day he finds a loose thread in the street, a loose story thread maybe. But he finds a loose thread and he follows it, and it takes him to the Cave of Wonders, where it's revealed that the genies themselves, they write the very fabric of fate itself, and the wishes are like a necessary part of leaping the world in different directions. So these wishes actually, the reason that they can grant wishes is because they can give people these things that perhaps they're luck, aren't they? So like off their own steam, they might not have been able to get this thing, but it evolves this part of the world in a different way. So they really sort of leap things forward and backwards as part of this big loom. So I think it's there's an emancipation storyline in there, to free the shackled genies. There's this element that like they give music and technological advancement and art to the world, but they're enslaved. It's quite an interesting sort of, they give people what they want, but they are at the whims of someone. And then you have this sort of big climactic battle where Jafar's broken staff is in two pieces, which happened, it shattered at the end of Aladdin. So you have Aladdin and Jafar with half the staff each battling out. The final battle is them old. They're at the Cave of Wonders that is, with the power of the genies unshackled, comes out and fights, like as an animal made of sand. And like as he's attacked, gold and jewels fly out of him, because all of his insides.
That's cool.
And Jafar, I've written down Jafar as a zombie. So somehow he dies and is brought back to life.
He actually looks like the old man. Give me the lamp, boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Looks like that.
He's like some warped, twisted version of himself. Yeah. Who disturbs my slumber? It is I, Aladdin. And then but as an old man, and he brings and then out rises the Cave of Wonders to fight on the side of good. So I think that's basically it. It's coming to terms with mortality. Because with Robin Williams passing as well, I mean, there's a song it ends with a song about having seen the world with you, because they're both old, Aladdin and Jasmine, and it's not a whole new world. It's like we've seen the world together, and Carpet takes them to different locales, and it's a metaphor for them dying, and coming to terms with mortality. Robin Williams, if he was there to voice the genie, being free of the lamp could, and being immortal would mean that he would watch all of his friends die. So there's something in that, so sort of something deeply sad in that, I think. Yeah,
it's amazing. I love it. There's a really sad thing, because I was about to say, would you think they'd take clips of like outtakes from the first one of Robin and then put them into the film? But then there's he's actually taken a legal proceedings, hasn't he, that none of his stuff can be
posthumously used, right?
Posthumously for 25 years or something, to protect his family. So we found this when we were trying to listen to the soundtrack.
Wow.
For my little one. You can't. The Friend Like Me isn't on there.
Wow.
Prince Ali. The rest of the soundtrack is, but anything with Robin Williams, you can't.
Was that actioned after he passed away? Then did they retract?
I think it was part of his will.
Right.
I think it was part of his will.
God, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I can see, and that is interesting, because I think people, actors and other sort of people in the public eye, they should be more concerned about their rights, and because if they can bring people back to the dead with CGI and deep fakes and other things, I think people need to be worried about whether they're going to be used for somebody else's gain. So I think there's an element of this that deals with passing and deals with like how you're remembered and deals with like sort of mortality. But I don't think the genie's present. I think they acknowledge that he's not coming back because he doesn't have to, and they don't need him. But in the beautiful way that you can let friends and loved ones go, because
they shape their lives.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right, completely left field. Is there a weird boner moment like many young Asian boys had when watching the first Aladdin film? When she puts on the crown, and she's like, "Oh, Jafar," and that was like my first weird boner. I didn't understand
why.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
Hot Jasmine. Is there a moment like that in the film?
Jasmine was hot from the beginning. Let's not.
Doesn't have to be it. And also, I think, and so I want to know that, and I want to know what happened to. Still, I think he's rather tasty. I want to know what happened to that woman. Maybe did she go to the pie shop, or like what's going on with her?
Well, I don't know about rather tasty woman. Oh no, I do. She's married, and she's old, and she's married to the guard captain.
The captain of the guard.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Lovely.
And so some of those characters have to reprise their roles, definitely. And in terms of like,
I think that's why I love Women from New York, was because of that film. Like, just the accent. I don't know what it is.
I don't know where to go with that, Brian. There's so much. I was talking to Aladdin's my favourite Disney film.
Yeah, mine too.
And other people are trying to convince me otherwise. Don't at me. And I realised it's because it's the first time I saw someone in a lead role in a cartoon that had my colour skin.
Yeah.
And so we were talking actually I was to be fair, I was a lot darker when I was younger than I am now, which is strange. Go back and look at pictures of us when we were younger. We're probably a little bit darker.
Lockdown. It's given us all jaundice.
Paled out.
That's what it is.
Culturally trying to fit in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember thinking I don't know why. I know now why I enjoyed that more, because I saw myself in Aladdin. I genuinely wanted to be Aladdin when I was younger. So
me too.
It'd be really interesting to see how Aladdin as a grown up now reflects me as a grown up. Do you know what I mean? Married, maybe with kids. Has he got kids?
I know there are kids in like some of the other movies. I just didn't want to touch that as a plot point. Not that I don't think that they should have kids.
But maybe they just have them. Yeah. They just have them. They're just a part of their life.
Yeah, I think so. And so it's not necessarily about parenthood, because that's covered in a lot of other things, and a lot of other Disney films. But definitely about aging out and trying to leave a legacy that leaves the world more positive than when you came into it. You know, that's it.
Here's something that maybe the internet will go crazy for, right? Does it acknowledge the fact and the conspiracy theory that Aladdin is actually set in the future? Because that's why, like in a post-apocalyptic world, that's why there's sand everywhere. That's why everything is sort of manual, and that's why the genie can do impressions of people in our timeline.
Cars in and stuff. That theory, it throws that theory out of the water, but it tells you that the genies are, internet, but it tells you a much better story, that the genies are capable of seeing forward and backwards in time. They understand the weave of time. They are the ones that see the branches of time. They're the ones that can pull things from different realities and different times because of their nature, the very nature of being these sort of transcendent beings. So that's how we're going to handle it. They're going to be these creatures live outside of our spectrum. So I'm hoping that it has, it's a completely ridiculous idea that would never be made. But I would like to see. When I have times when I'm locked indoors or I'm having a tough week, I like to imagine, as I think everybody does, like what these characters that you've grown up with and that you've known and loved, like what they would be doing
now.
Yeah. So that was my idea for a sequel or some sort of spiritual successor to a film I've loved and held dear for a long time.
We've all loved.
We've all loved. Bastardizing it probably in many ways for everybody else. But I want to hear in the comments, put it out there for everyone to see. I want to see your favourite sequels, follow-up ideas that you've held in your brain but not told anyone. These ideas you have when you think, God, I wish they'd done that. I wish I'd
love to hear a bunch of Disney sequels, like Beauty and the Beast. What's happened? Beauty and the Beast 2. Yeah. What's happening now?
Yeah. And disregard all of the, do a Days of Future Past or whatever. Disregard all of the ones you don't like. Or Superman Returns. Just go straight back to, the sequel to Beauty and the Beast.
Undo everything. Yeah. Love it. Anastasia 2. What's going on with that?
The Road to El Dorado 2. No, okay, all right. Dan, I'm really excited to hear. Hopefully it will be half the length. Not that I'm trying to constrict you, but I was bored of my own pitch halfway through that. So I'm hoping that you can give us...
That's another classic Sean offhanded comment about clearly was bored halfway through mine too.
No, I was very clear about being bored halfway through mine. That's why I don't often pitch.
Yeah, you'd be glad to know my efforts are of the same level as they are every time. So I've got a great initial idea and we'll all need to pad out.
All right.
So mine is a sequel to Titanic.
Oh.
It's called Titanic 2 From the Depths. And it picks up literally from the end of the last one, where we've seen her throw the heart of the ocean into the ocean.
Perfect.
And they decide to turn the ship around. And we follow that heart, go all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. And it sparks. There's something inside it. It's wiggly, spirity type thing. It shoots out from the thing, straight into the tiny, and there's a big, one of the things. And this sort of green, bluey mist goes through the Titanic's hull, which is resting at the bottom of the ocean. And all the bodies that are slowly decomposing at a slower rate because it's freezing down there. There's no pressure, no oxygen. It's all working. And the spirits go through the body. And one of them twitches. As slowly the lost souls of the Titanic begin to rise to the surface. Titanic 2 from the depths. And that's we roll credits. So basically, it turns out that old Cal, is it Cal, the evil guy?
Yes, Billy. Who's he played by?
Billy Zane.
Billy Zane. He's so good in that movie. That's the best. Not that I'm suggesting anyone should do this, but that's the best table flip I've ever seen in a movie. He's so good. At one point, he just incensed with privilege. He just flips that table. It's just amazing.
That's it. Cal Hockley, I think he was, right? So it turns out that the reason he is rich, the whole point is that Kate Winslet's meant to be marrying Rose. Rose is meant to be marrying Cal to increase their fortunes. But the reason they're rich is because they've had this heart of the ocean. This is why he's so furious that he's given it away to her at the end of the original Titanic. But it contains spirits of the dead who have been giving them like advice on what to invest in and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But the spirits have been. This is the take, and the spirits have gone down. The heart of the ocean is broken. These spirits have got out, and it's like a Necromonicon. It's like it raises. It's a necromancy, and it raises the dead spirits. And because there's so much pain and anguish because of the Titanic, the ship itself begins to rise as a ghost ship, right? And that ghost ship and the lost souls bring down the ship that is in. That was been sailing. I don't know what's the guy in that.
Yeah, Bill Pullman. Is it Pullman? Bill Pullman. Bill Paxton.
Bill Pullman. Bill Paxton. Brock, love it. He's that ship. They've turned around. I give up. And then the Titanic rises up before him. He's like, oh my god! And just before it crashes down on their ship, and they all sink and they all die. Therefore, everyone on that ship dies again. Right. Gone.
So they would be characters. Would they rise from the dead as spirits as well? These people.
Well, this is what will happen. So then there's a search ship that goes out to find them because they've gone down. They're like, oh my god, it's the Titanic. And everyone's like, oh my god, they get this back. Morgan Freeman gets it back at the base,
right?
And he decides to set out to see what's happened. But he's always known. He's always known something was wrong with the Titanic. He's been researching the sort of the spirituality of the dangers of the they were going across this ship route, and it happened to go through like a place of ley line crossing.
I was just going to say, is it ley lines?
And that's why the iceberg came out of nowhere and hit them. Anyway, so he takes his team of, I think it should be Angelina Jolie, Sandra Bullock, Steven Seagal, and we should probably have Arnold Schwarzenegger as a cameo in there at one point, right? Along with Billy Zane, who has come back. He's heard, but he's on a different sort of ship, like a search party. They've been going out to try and find this heart of the ocean. He needs it back. And they've just found out that she's been going on this trip out there. Anyway, so they all go, and it's basically a thriller horror sort of dead zombie movie, effectively. Yeah. Based on Titanic. And we see, like, when the ship comes up, obviously it crashes, breaks some ships. The musicians are playing Abide With Me, but sort of it's a minor key, and then they bring the ship down and it crashes in, and you just hear it go underneath, and all the people are screaming to get up.
Can I say that what would be interesting is if the ship the different search parties get there, and the ship comes up and comes out of the water, and they're like, oh my god, can you guys see this? And for some reason, like, none of their GPSs work, none of their radios work, none of their phones work, but the ship is just like there, and they go and they like touch the hull, and it's physical,
it's real,
and then so absolutely. They start to go back into the Titanic, like the search parties go back into it,
That's what they have to do, yeah. But they've got two broken parts. So one search party's on one part, one's on the other, and they've got to try and find... The idea is to find the heart of the ocean again to try and undo the curse that has been put on it. And so, yeah, it's basically some kind of... It's all zombie. So they're zombies. They're not spirits. They're actually the physical characters. So we'll get to see those people come back.
That's amazing. So you've got like this awful Billy Zane zombie rather than like... a ghostly spirit. It's a proper zombie movie.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a zombie movie set on the Titanic with the people who just finished on the Titanic in the modern ship going back through, having to like sort out all the zombies.
So the people that are on that, well, no, new people going back through, in the modern day, going back through the old Titanic.
Yeah.
That we had just seen in Titanic.
So is it a splatter zombie film? Is it an action zombie film?
I'm just trying to work out, does it go full splatter, or is it like proper, like scary?
That's a wicked idea for a film. Is like a bunch of people for whatever reason have to go through the Titanic because like there's it lapsed long enough ago that it's a tragedy, of course, but one that you can put into the zombie context.
That was my wife's worry, right? That was like when I said zombies, the Titanic re-rises, and she's like, is that appropriate? Are you allowed to do that? And I was like, well, I think it's a ridiculous enough idea that we're obviously not being disrespectful to the lost souls there. We are quite obviously, it's ridiculous. It's utter ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But they find out more about why the Titanic sank, and actually it turns out that it wasn't just the iceberg, that it was the ley lines, it was all that kind of stuff. Wonderful conspiracy theory stuff that goes on.
I like that. I like this sort of idea that there's some ghostly people and some non-ghostly people who you see them like they're trying to find each other, but you don't realise that one of the two parties has already died and has come back.
Yeah.
So like when they find each other, they can't see each other. They're almost in two different timelines or whatever, there's like this. So then you have the romance of the original, but twisted in some way in this one.
Well, Jack's definitely got to come back. He's got to be like the zombie lord, right?
Yeah.
He's got to be like the big, and he's got
right
the
in
heart
the
of the ocean
bowels
around his
of
neck
the ship,
because he found it. Yeah, right in the bowels. Yeah.
No. It found him.
Yeah.
Found him. That's what she wanted it to do. Oh yes, I love it. And his love has brought them all back. But it's twisted horribly.
Yeah.
In fact, he hates her because there was enough room on that door.
Oh, we're going to go that way with it. It depends on if we're going to have Cameron.
Left me to die. It's got to be DiCaprio as well. It's got to be.
It's got to be in a perfect world that they would get all come back, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
That would be amazing, and they'd be sort of zombified and de-aged as well somehow, using like that's Cameron's like technology that he leaps forward in this one. God, that would be good. So Cameron probably wouldn't do it, but how about we get Gore Verbinski to do it, who did the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise? Cameron would laughingly, jokingly decide to produce it as a sort of a joke, and then he'd go, "Hold on a minute, I could make another $1 billion with this." And he doesn't really give a shit about his franchises anymore if they can make billions of dollars. So he farms it out to Verbinski, like Battle Angel Alita. He farmed out to Rodriguez. Farms it out. Verbinski makes it. And it's got all the energy of his Pirates films, but with zombies. And I reckon Verbinski's the kind of guy who has like a reasonable amount of respect for the old zombie films of yesteryear. So he can really make it one of these, like, because Dawn of the Dead, if you look at it, there's enough essays on it. I'm not going to go into it, but it is a splattery zombie adventure, and also about consumerism and that culture at that time. So you can have it be a splattery, gory, epic zombie film, whilst also having a message in there as well, elevating it slightly to Romero levels. I like it. Titanic 2. Is the 2 going to be severed zombie fingers? That's done too many times. Is it going to be?
I think we
don't know. No. Of the Titanic.
It's the funnel, the thingy.
Two funnels. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like
there are slightly angles from where it is sinking. So one's up and one's at an angle.
Yeah. Too. So the ship would be a physical thing that people can traverse. Would it look water damaged? Would it look modern?
It will look broken.
Right.
But as you go deeper, maybe the illusory idea is that it becomes more and more real.
They'll go through a door at one point, and it is like the ballroom.
Yeah, it opens up and the ballroom.
Well, that happens, doesn't it, in the Titanic right at the end? So if you do that, except that they're all zombies, then you just completely shit on that original image. I love it.
And Billy Zane's zombie throws I originally I thought he was alive, but actually he's died, or maybe he dies early on and comes back as a zombie.
Yeah.
Right, so he gets there first before Morgan Freeman's lot, because he gets killed by DiCaprio.
Yeah. Okay, so
that's the first time we see DiCaprio.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah. I like that. So DiCaprio's there, and he just lays into Billy Zane. But then I sort of like Billy Zane coming back as an antagonist. You know, he just won't be put down.
Yeah, he won't be put down until DiCaprio does.
Right.
And then because everyone wanted him to get his comeuppance, but he stole a kid and got on a lifeboat and got away. Right?
Yeah.
That's how he's ending. So he's got to have some. It's got to be horrible for him, isn't it?
Yeah. So forgive me, I'm just trying to piece it together. So Morgan Freeman's ship of who are they? Who is?
They're like the search party. They're like the army SEALs. That's why Steven Seagal's there, right? So because we'll have Steven Seagal in there pulling some moves.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's got we're going towards the level of ridiculous. So I put like Angelina Jolie, some of the sort of established action people of our time, and Sandra Bullock in there, and then sort of. But they've got enough chops that they can give a bit of the real to that while craziness is going on.
I like the idea of there being one zombie helping them, and it's the captain, because no matter what, captain will go down with his ship, and he's like the only, maybe not honourable one, but I don't know, maybe like the necromantic forces affect him in a different way.
He knows that he's supposed to go down with the ship. That's what a captain does. It's unnatural for him to be here and for the ship to be here, so he will down the ship again, you know, and go down with it again in order to let and that's releasing the curse and giving the ship back and everything. Yeah. That's a great. He was great, that captain, as well.
He was so good, isn't he? So it's Titanic 2, From the Depths. The tagline is "Abide with me."
So there were three very, very different films, very, very different ideas for sequels, and I'm quite impressed how much different ground was covered. Not a single one.
Many genres covered.
Yeah, and good films great films to whatever Titanic 2 with zombies ended up being. But we're not picking winners, but definitely my favourite. And I love Speed Racer. But definitely if you make a Splatterhouse film out of the Titanic, you've got a film I've never seen before. I've seen some horror films, but ghost shippy type things are supposed to be horrific, whereas a zombie film has a bit of, I don't know, irreverence energy to it, something like that, just by the definition of having zombies in it. They always represent something culturally rather than be the fearsome, beast itself. So there's no winners. We're all losers here. They're all fantastic ideas. We're all losers. But I'm glad that we can. I'm grateful we can come together and do this sort of thing and knock about some ideas. And so we want to put it out. There's very little we can do during the pandemic to support people above and beyond what we're already doing to support our family and the people around us. However, if you want to come on /Dupe and you want to be given a title and come up with something ridiculous and immortalise your fantastic ideas, that's something we can do. So get in touch with us if you want to be a part of this. We'd love for you to be a part of this. We're just looking into doing our third and fourth quarters now for this season. So we would love to get people involved because maybe we're not reaching out to everybody that we might think has an idea in them. If you think you've got an idea in you, reach out to us, and we'd love to include you. So in 2 weeks,
some people have on our socials, haven't they? We've been seeing that. We had Rowan give us some lovely work originally on Bob Disposal, and then we got him in on, and we've recently had Taj come on and give us a slew of ideas from the first.
Taj was incredibly prolific, wasn't he? He did one for Bob Disposal, and I was really taken by it's really not because we're Asian, of course, as well. So's Taj. but like to see people casting predominantly Asian casts, it's something that we don't normally see. So I was quite taken by that. I thought that's fantastic.
He's very helpfully going to school me on Bollywood at some point, because after our Bahubali inspired, which I was informed reliably is actually Tollywood rather than Bollywood. So we might do a little interview with him where he can do some Bollywood education for me.
That would be fantastic, because it's definitely a part of cinema that I'm undernourished in. And you forwarded me some of the messages sent to you when he was informing you of Bollywood, Tollywood, and he was like, "No, that's not the Gary Oldman of Bollywood. This is." And I was like, Oldman. I want to. Honestly, something stirred in me. I want Taj to let us know what we can. To school us on Bollywood and Tollywood, and
I'm excited for that.
I'm really, really excited about that. So hopefully we'll get him on, and we'll have him. We'll have an episode like that set up, because we can, if we can learn, whatever we can learn, if we can pass that on, or if anyone wants to come and school us on a genre that they understand more than us, or that they deal with more than us, then we're more than happy to have you on and interact. And his Bob Disposal idea as well. I'm a big fan of, like, he started with the logline vampires, future samurai world, and that's it. You had me. So when we have him on, we'll speak to him about his ideas, definitely. And you can find his ideas on our Facebook page, and please feel free to pop your own in there as well. He did one for Arrest My Case as well. And one that he sent us about This Train Terminates, which he was like, I'm not sure if this is too controversial. And I really feel like you can't, as long as you're treating topics with care and respect, all viewpoints are worth exploring. So hopefully we'll talk about his This Train Terminates when we have him on. So we have, I just want to chat briefly about Crunchy Tomatoes. So I work with them in their script department. They're a film production company, and they make music videos, short films. We're going to have the director, Sam Blakeney Edwards, on our Bond special, but we've been having to delay it because as the film delays, we think, Christ, thank God we have more time before we have to do this episode. So that episode hopefully will come out shortly before the release of Bond in April. But see, Sam and I, he's one of the people that we created before /Dupe. We were the people who met up in Soho to discuss stupid film ideas. So to have him on for a Bond special, I'm really excited about. And we're both massive Bond fans, and have watched it evolve over time as well, and have some interesting ideas about what we would do to the franchise, and also what we've loved about the franchise. So we're really looking forward to having a Bond special, which you should see shortly before in April. And you can find Crunchy Toms at Crunchy Toms Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can find Crunchy Tomatoes music videos. They're staying prolific creatively and safe during the lockdown, and creating some music videos and sort of keeping their juices flowing. So you can find their music videos and some of their other short films. One of them's on Amazon Prime, I believe, or on Amazon. So have a look for them. Crunchy Tomatoes and Sam Blakeney Edwards will be coming up for our Bond special in the new year. So in 2 weeks coming up, we have our Adjudicator episode where all 6 of the previous winning ideas will face off against each other as pitched by us. And there can only be one. So it will sit alongside, that winning idea will sit alongside Becky's idea for This Train Terminates, which has been our winner so far, and that will go into the semi-finals. No, that will go into the finals.
Sean still doesn't understand sports tournaments.
We'll sit Sean down and have a little chat with him about how it works again.
He'll go into the finals. Everybody knows more than I do by now if they're listening. So anyway, yeah. So in 2 weeks' time, we have our Adjudicator episode. So tune in for that. So this will be right at the tail end of November when you're listening to this episode as well. So feel free to pitch into our November page. We're doing it with our Blonde Song compatriots. One of the characters, Octavius, his name is Bradley Kershaw. He has also shaved himself bare and is going moustache only for November, just to increase awareness for men's mental health and physical health. So feel free to to pitch in for that, or even just raise awareness for it, because really we're not looking for contributions. We're really just looking for awareness raising. If you can speak to that friend of yours that you think might be having a tough time, or if you can it's very difficult to put past your own sort of feelings of anxiety or being uncomfortable around discussing with other men or discussing with people that you love and care about how they're really doing. If you can try, maybe if you have the ability more than somebody else, if you're capable of saying to them, hey, like, what's wrong, or what's going on, or but let's break down those stereotypes. So just some awareness, really, even if it's way past November or November even, it's definitely still something.
One of the things I've really found wonderful about reconnecting with you two over the years is that I feel we've established that relationship, and it's been really helpful for me to have two other men that I can talk candidly about how I feel. Whether that be celebrating how wonderful I feel and not feeling guilty for that, or actually genuinely talking through the pressures that I'm feeling, no matter how in the perspective grand scheme of things they might seem so shallow, but for me at that particular time they are quite important. And to have someone to listen and not judge that has been extremely important to me, and I would encourage anyone else to do that. It doesn't hurt. The only thing it's ever done is make us closer and respect each other more. So I would ask you to reach out and enjoy the wonderful relationship I have with these two.
No, I appreciate that, Dan. Thanks for saying that. That's really sweet.
So with Dan married, Sean having a fiance, and Ryan being definitely lone and single, hit us up on the socials. Like for any dates.
Are you fishing?
For any dates?
You fishing on the socials?
I mean, I might as well try. But if you can't recommend me a date on our socials, that's @/Dupe on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got a Reddit. Actually, I checked at the SEO. If you just put into Google /Dupe, 2 words, you get all of those socials in there. So
that's the benefit of picking a word that no one can spell or remember. So that's good.
So go on there. We're posting upcoming episodes, posters, cryptic teasers, which are quite interesting. I compile those personally myself, of like weird things to try and get people to guess the titles, and so far no one's got it. So if you're the first person, maybe you get a prize.
Hey,
Ryan will go on a date with you.
No one will go for it.
No one will guess that. That's why.
No, Ryan's great on a date, mate. No, you'd be lovely, mate. But I'm just saying, it's not everybody who's single says that they want to have a partner, and everyone who has a partner secretly wishes they were single. So the grass is not always greener.
My wife is listening to this. That is not true. So
oh yeah.
And my mother-in-law also listens to this. So it's definitely
Dan,
not
why are
true.
you saying that? Why are you nodding so
much?
much?
Why are you winking to us?
There's a world of pain. I'm in lockdown.
My fiance can hear me, by the way, because we're supposed to be attending something at 5, and it's 5:10. So our Zoom remote book club, and she just said, "Yeah, now is the time I wish I didn't have a partner." That's what she just sent to me on WhatsApp. It's just popped up in the corner, so she can hear everything we're saying. So we better wrap this up. So yeah, thanks for that, Ryan. Check us out on our socials, and listen, I really appreciate getting together today. We chat every so often for work, but it's nice just to get together and just be creative and without any real
talent.
Without any real talent. I was going to say necessary outcome, but talent works too. So yeah, lots of love to you, Dan and Ryan, and everyone at home. So thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate you guys making an effort today, but we really appreciate everyone at home who actually tunes in to listen to us, and we'd love to bring you on board in whatever capacity you have the time and the desire to.
Big love from the /Dupe boys. Stay safe, and we'll see you all soon.
Recorded in the Capo Studios 2020. What's up, Danger?